Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to a special edition of Your Views on the News. Now, I'm delighted to say I'm being joined in the studio by Hamja Ahsan. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
And Dr. Ismail Jalisi. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
From We Are Babar Ahmad campaign.
That's correct.
Okay, Hamja, if I can turn to you, I mean, we had your father in here earlier. How do you feel about the news that Gary McKinnon won't be extradited, but your brother was?
Yeah, first things first, I'm absolutely delighted for Gary McKinnon's mum. My dad and Gary McKinnon's mum have stood together on a platform outside Downing Street against the extradition treaty, and I'm even someone who came on Islam channel and would say support Gary McKinnon, all British Muslims to support Richard O'Dwyer, Gary McKinnon in the non-Muslim cases, because Islam's supposedly religion of justice. And I'm also happy for her because she doesn't have to go through the same psychological hell and nightmare that my family has been going through for the last 2 weeks. We haven't even had a phone call from Talha yet. We don't have a clue how he is. He's an extremely vulnerable person. You know, he's diagnosed with Asperger, as mentioned, and he has an assessed suicide risk, just like Gary McKinnon. And let's bear in mind, these solitary confinement regimes in America is where 50% of suicide risks take place. That's according to America's own findings. And Theresa May is quite happy for that to be shown, but it's absolutely scandalous. It's an outrageous double standard. It's clear and stark as day. Whatever management speak the Home Office comes out with, like, they're different cases. Hang on a minute, if we're different cases, why are you calling me Abu Hamza and the others when Caroline Lucas in Parliament specifically asked a question about Talha and Babar, specifically, and she replied, Abu Hamza and the others. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And, well, I mean, Hamja's quite clear in how he feels on this issue. It does feel hypocritical and double standards.
Well, it clearly is. I mean, you have two cases that are very, very similar. You've got a severe, a definite suicide risk, an assessed suicide risk, an assessed suicide risk. In the case of Talha, both individuals have Asperger's, quite fairly severe Asperger's. It's not a joke. And the Home Office has been willing to uphold Gary's human rights, and correctly so. This is completely the correct decision. You've not heard the families who are suffering have stood up and applauded this and sent their congratulations to Janice, as have we as a campaign, backing all 4 cases. So Babar, Talha, Gary McKinnon and Richard O'Dwyer. And the important thing is really that Theresa May has only stood up for Gary after David Cameron asked Barack Obama, you wouldn't mind if we kept him, would you?
Yeah.
She hasn't actually done anything beyond that. Even announcing the so-called forum bar, which again she could have done any time since this government came in. And that would have spared the families of Babar and Talha, and Babar and Talha going across to the US. If there was a forum bar in place, then they would have to be tried here.
Yeah, I mean, in the first part, we discussed how this was kind of the end of the beginning, because there is a long way to go. Your brother's still abroad, Babar's still abroad, and justice still hasn't been done. I mean, in terms of what our viewers and what people can do, Hamja, what kind of recommendations would you make to people? What should they get involved with?
Something that's really important, the struggle against corrupt forms of power is about memory against forgetting. Make sure Babar's not forgotten and Talha's not forgotten. We do vigils every month in the middle of London, so go to our website, freetalha.org, and find out details of that. There's other things. As I said, Talha's been detained in solitary confinement. He was never held in solitary confinement in Britain. He was held in a form of group isolation, so he has no access to his family. And how can you, if the trial's not till October 2013, so you can be put a year in, we're talking about 23 hours a day without any human contact, or apart from strip searches. Some people, you mentally break down in those conditions. So it's important that his family visit him, and his father visit him, and his mother, and I do.
Sure.
Obviously, flying to the USA is going to,
it's not going to be cheap, is it?
No.
It's not going to be cheap. And I think the We Are Babar Ahmad campaign, I mean, you're also have a kind of idea of the kind of activities people can get into to help get some justice.
What we would like to call on anyone to do, and we're not just talking about Muslims, non-Muslims, so your viewers, their friends, their families, their work colleagues, write to your MP, please write to your MP and ask them to ask the Foreign Office what they are doing to ensure that Babar and Talha are released on bail, as Christopher Tappan, someone else who was extradited to the US. They're released on bail so they can prepare a viable defence. Right now, both of them are held 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. How can anyone prepare a legal defence to such serious charges? And the Americans, when they had Babar and Talha extradited, one of the things they said to the court was, "We are trial ready." The minute they land in the US, they turn around and say, "Oh, we need an additional year."
Another year.
That, by definition, that's not trial ready. Now they've gone. This injustice has been done. It's time to ask our government to stop any further injustices being done.
And what more can people do to engage?
Well, one more thing they can do is please go to the family website and pledge money. It's not cheap going to the USA, and these boys need all the support they can get. This is about forming a credible defence for them and ensuring that they don't break down under these terrible conditions.
And I think what, like you mentioned, Hamja, is part of the battle for justice is not to forget the injustice that's been done. And I think on a regular basis, if you're holding a vigil, that's something that we should encourage people to come to, definitely. But in terms of in the media itself, are there people who are writing in the media to highlight these double standards that you see?
You know, a pivotal factor is obviously the Daily Mail backed Gary McKinnon, had a British Justice for British Citizens campaign, although some British citizens are referred to as unwanted guests, exact quote, which is how they refer to Talha and Babar. It's terrible. I mean, you get people calling in. I mean, I've done a lot of phone-in shows. Get people calling in and tell us to go back to Pakistan, even though we're Bengali. And other just, plain-faced racism.
There's a lot of racism, a lot of Islamophobia still out there. That needs to
we should remember that, neither of them have actually been found guilty of anything.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key point.
And that's the most key cornerstone of the justice system is presumption of innocence before proven guilty.
Well, just before we finish this segment, Dr. Ismail, do you want to add any more things that people can do?
Well, we just want to call on William Hague to lend his offices to back these two British citizens who are innocent, who have never seen the case presented before them, and ensure that they are released on bail. I mean, it would put an end to the allegations and the fair comment that this government is guilty of gross double standards. And it's either racism or Islamophobia. I have no idea which, because I can't read Theresa's May mind. So we asked them to.
Sure. Hamja, did you?
This is actually not the first time Theresa May's shown double standards. For example, earlier she banned Dr. Zakir Naik from entering Britain, who's, favourite of my mum's and my aunties. At the same time, she lets an extremist Zionist rabbi who says Muslims are dogs who can eat each other and loves the English Defence League to enter the country. So this is not the first time she's shown double standards in regard to race and religion.
And I mean, it says it all. That's a powerful. I mean, that's why the statement from Babar Ahmad's family that some British citizens are more British and some citizens are more equal. You can see how it resonates with people because that's the kind of experience that people have.
And the only way we can change this is by presenting our clear arguments to our MPs. If only a few voices are raising this, if it's only Babar's family and Talha's family who are fighting the good fight, they're just going to turn around and say, well, it's because their son went, their brother went. It's everyone's brother, everyone's son, it's everyone's brother in Islam. We have a duty by that. It's everyone's countryman. And if we change it for these two boys, we'll change it for everyone.
Okay. Well, thank you both for joining me in the studio. And I think, as has been articulated, we are coming up to the Maghrib Salah. I think first thing we do need to do is make dua for Babar and Talha and their families and what they're going through, and may Allah make it easy for them. But as Dr. Ismail mentioned, if it's only a few people that campaign and complain, it's not really going to get the message home. So we should resolve in our duas to do something about this. See you after the break. Assalamu alaikum.